Captain Jun Kim was halfway through his morning coffee when the alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed across the control room of the International Space Defense Force headquarters. "Sir, multiple objects entering our solar system," shouted Jun, the young radar specialist. Her hands flew across the screen, bringing up images on the main display. Jun put down his coffee and stood up. "How many?" "Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands." Jun's voice shook slightly. "They're moving in perfect formation." Jun felt his stomach tighten. This was not a natural phenomenon. This was not a false alarm. This was what humanity had both feared and anticipated for decades. "Send the alert to all world governments," he ordered, his voice steadied despite the pounding in his chest, "and get me a direct line to the general." Within 6 hours, the alien vessels had reached Earth orbit. They positioned themselves above every major city on the planet. The ships were massive, each one easily the size of a small island. Their dark, metallic hulls reflected sunlight in strange patterns, casting moving shadows on the cities below. People filled the streets, looking up at the sky. Some prayed, some cried, some took videos with their phones. But everyone felt the same thing: fear. In the emergency meeting room beneath Seoul, Captain Jun sat with military leaders and government officials from around the world, connected through secure video links. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," said General Park, her face grim. "They want to talk." "Then let's hear what they have to say," said the South Korean president. The screen at the front of the room flickered to life. The being that appeared looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. Its skin was pale blue. Its eyes were too large, with pupils shaped like diamonds. When it spoke, its mouth moved strangely, as if the act of speaking was uncomfortable. "People of Earth," it said in perfect, unaccented English, "we are the Domari. We have come to claim this world as part of our empire." The room fell silent. "Your planet has resources we require. Your position in this galaxy is strategically valuable. Your species has potential to serve us well." Captain Jun felt cold anger rise in his chest. "We could simply take what we want," the alien continued. "We could destroy your cities and your armies in minutes, but we prefer efficiency. Submit to us, and most of your people will live comfortable lives under our rule." The South Korean president leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" The alien's expression didn't change, but something like amusement flickered in its diamond eyes. "That would be unwise. But we understand you may need time to accept your new reality. We will give you 7 of your Earth days to surrender formally." The screen went black. The room exploded with voices. Angry, frightened, confused. The American president wanted to launch nuclear missiles immediately. The Chinese premier urged caution. The European representatives argued among themselves. General Park raised her hand for silence. "We need someone to serve as our direct contact with these Domari, someone with both military and diplomatic experience." All eyes turned to Captain Jun. "Captain Kim has studied extraterrestrial contact scenarios for 15 years, said General Park. "He speaks 7 languages and has negotiated in 3 international conflicts." Jun stood up straighter. "I'll do it." As he left the meeting, his phone buzzed. A message from his friend, Dr. Yun Park from the linguistics department. "Jun, something's not right with their language patterns. The translation was too perfect. Meet me at the lab ASAP." Jun looked up at the sky, where the massive ships hung like dark clouds. 7 days to save humanity. He would need every advantage he could get. And maybe, just maybe, Dr. Park had found the first piece of the puzzle. Dr. Yun Park's laboratory was a mess of screens, papers, and coffee cups. She had not slept since the aliens arrived. "You look terrible," said Captain Jun as he walked in. Yun didn't look up from her screen. "Listen to this." She played a recording of the Domari's message. Then she played it again, but slower. "Do you hear it?" she asked. Jun shook his head. "Hear what?" "The pauses, the rhythm. It's too perfect." She pushed her hair back from her tired face. No species should be able to speak our language this perfectly without years of study. Before June could answer, his phone rang. The United Earth Council was meeting. The Domari commander had requested his presence. The council room was large and bright. Leaders from every major nation sat around a huge round table. At the center stood a hologram projector. June took his place at the table. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. The hologram flickered on. The Domari commander appeared, tall and blue-skinned. "I am Commander Telvax," the alien said. "I speak for the Domari Empire." The UN Secretary General stood up. "I am Secretary Jia. I speak for Earth. This is Captain Kim, our military liaison." Telvax looked at June with those strange diamond eyes. "Captain, I hope you will help your people make the wise choice. We want to understand your intentions better," June said carefully. "Very well." Telvax made a gesture. The hologram changed to show a beautiful green planet. This was Nura. They refused our offer. The image changed. The same planet was now gray and lifeless. Gasps filled the room. Telvax showed 3 more planets. All had refused. All were now dead. "We do not make threats," said Telvax. "We state facts. You have 6 days remaining." After the alien disappeared, the room exploded with panic. "We must surrender," shouted some. "We must fight," shouted others. June slipped away and called Ian. "I need you at the military base," he said. "Bring everything you have on their language." In a secure room at the base, Yun set up her equipment. June brought in his friend Major Han, a military tactician with quick eyes and a serious face. "The Domari showed us destroyed planets," June explained to them. "They want us terrified." "It's working," said Han. "The European Union is already drafting surrender terms." Ilan played more recordings of the Domari speaking. "There's something strange here. Their language is perfect, but there are tiny glitches when they express certain sounds." She pointed to a sound wave on her screen. "See this pattern? It happens every time they say words with certain combinations of sounds. Their voice changes slightly, like they're uncomfortable." "What does it mean?" asked Han. "I'm not sure yet," said Ian. "But I think there are sounds that bother them physically, maybe even hurt them." June remembered how the alien's mouth had moved strangely when speaking. Could this be a weakness? "Maybe," said Yun. "I need more data, more recordings." "You'll get them," said June. "Tomorrow, I meet with Telvax alone to discuss surrender terms." He made air quotes with his fingers. "That's dangerous," said Han. "What if they can read your mind or something?" June smiled grimly. "Then humanity is already done for." "But I don't think so. I think Dr. Park is onto something." He looked at the images of the destroyed planets. "The Domari want us to believe they're invincible, but every species has weaknesses. We just need to find theirs." Ian nodded, her tired eyes now bright with purpose. "And we have 6 days to do it." The 3 looked at each other, feeling the weight of billions of lives on their shoulders. Outside, the shadow of a Domari ship passed over the building, darkening the room momentarily. A reminder of what hung above them all, both threat and challenge. The meeting with Commander Telvax went exactly as planned. Too perfectly, in fact. Captain June sat across from the alien leader in a special room built just for these talks. The walls were white. The table was clear. 2 chairs, 1 human, 1 made for the taller Domari body. "Your people are being wise," said Telvax. His blue skin looked almost gray under the bright lights. "Many worlds fight. It only leads to pain." June nodded, his face showing nothing. The small device in his pocket recorded everything, every word, every sound the alien made. "We have questions about how things will work after surrender," Jun said. He used words that would make Telvax speak longer sentences. Each time, Jun watched carefully for those tiny signs Un had pointed out. "There, A small twitch around the alien's mouth when he said certain sounds. A slight pause before specific words. Telvax was hiding something. Humans will continue most of your normal lives, Telvax explained. You will work. You will live. You will simply serve the Empire now. After 2 hours, Jun had what he needed. The recording device had captured everything. Back at the lab, Yun worked without stopping. Her small team of linguists and sound engineers gathered around screens filled with sound waves and language patterns. Play it again, she told her assistant Mina. Focus on the word water when he says it. The recording played, Telvax saying, your water resources will remain under local control. There, Yun pointed at the screen. See that hesitation? That tiny break in the sound pattern? Mina nodded slowly. It's like, he's afraid of the word. Not the word, said Yun. The sound. Something about that specific sound bothers him physically. Just then, Jun and Han entered the lab. They'd brought food. No one had eaten properly in days. Any news from the world governments? Yun asked between bites of sandwich. Han's face was grim. Most are preparing surrender documents. The Chinese and Americans want to fight, but their weapons would barely scratch those ships. We need more than scratches, said Jun. We need something that will make them leave. Yun turned back to her screens. I think there's something here. The Domari react strangely to certain sound patterns, especially in Korean. Korean? Han looked surprised. Why Korean? I don't know yet, Yun admitted. But when Telvax heard Korean words during the meeting today, his pupils changed shape. Did you notice, Jun? Jun nodded. I did. I thought I was imagining things. You weren't. Yun pulled up a new screen. I've been studying their biology from the limited scans we have. Their hearing is much more sensitive than ours, and their brains process sounds differently. She showed them a diagram of a Domari brain. See this part here? In humans, this processes language. In the Domari, it's connected directly to their fear response center. Han leaned forward. Are you saying certain sounds could scare them? Not just scare, said Yun, her eyes bright with discovery. I think certain sound patterns could trigger a complete fear response. Like how some humans are afraid of heights or spiders, no matter how much they know the fear is not logical. A built-in phobia, Jun said slowly. Exactly. Yun turned to her team. We need to test different sound patterns. Focus on Korean words first, especially words with vowel combinations. Jun checked his watch. We have 4 days left before the surrender deadline. And the world governments are getting ready to give up, added Han. Yun looked at her screens, determination on her tired face. Then we work faster. If I'm right, we might have found a way to fight back without a single weapon. Outside the lab window, a Domari ship hung in the sky like a dark promise. Inside, human minds worked frantically to find the one sound that might save their world. 3 days before the surrender deadline, the Domari grew impatient. They fired a weapon at an empty island in the Pacific Ocean. The entire island disappeared in a flash of blue light. A demonstration. Commander Telvax explained in a worldwide broadcast. So you understand the cost of refusal. In cities around the world, people packed their things and fled. Roads were jammed with cars. Others simply waited, eyes on the giant ships above. Meanwhile, Captain Jun met with a small group in an underground bunker outside Seoul. The official surrender ceremony is planned for Thursday, he told them. World leaders will sign papers giving Earth to the Domari. We can't let that happen, said Han, slamming his fist on the table. Jia Li, a communications specialist with quick hands and a brilliant mind, nodded in agreement. If Dr. Park is right about the sound weakness, we need to use it before the surrender. Yun entered the room, carrying a tablet. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she was smiling. We made progress. We tested sound patterns on the small Domari communication device we captured. She placed the tablet on the table. When we played certain sounds, The device shut down completely. It has biological components, parts made from Domari tissue. So their technology is partly alive? Asked Ja, looking disgusted. Yes, and that's good news for us, said Yun. It means their ships might react the same way to the right sounds. June leaned forward. Have you found the exact sound that affects them most? We're close, said Yun. It seems to be in words with certain vowel combinations. She played a recording of Korean words. These all caused the device to react strongly. Han studied a map of Domari ship positions. Even if we find the right sound, how do we use it? We need to broadcast it to all their ships at once. Jia's eyes lit up. I might have a solution. She pulled up plans on her tablet. I've been studying their communication network. All Domari ships connect to each other. If we can access one ship's system, we could send a message to all of them. Access a ship. Han looked at her like she was crazy. How would we do that? June's face grew serious. Someone would need to go up there. The room fell silent as everyone realized what he meant. That's suicide, said Han finally. Maybe not, said June. I've been to their command ship twice now for meetings. I know the layout. If I had the right equipment, I could plant a transmitter. And I could design something to connect to their network, added Jia. They worked through the night, planning every detail. June would request another meeting with Telvax. He would wear special equipment hidden in his clothes. Jia would guide him through an earpiece. Han would prepare a backup plan in case things went wrong. As dawn broke, the team gathered one last time before putting their plan in action. What if we're wrong? Han asked quietly. What if sounds don't affect them the way we think? Yun looked at the latest test results on her screen. Then humanity surrenders in 3 days, she said simply. Jun straightened his jacket, hiding the small devices Jia had given him. I have a meeting with Telvax in 2 hours. By then, Yun needs to have the exact sound identified. Yun nodded, determination in her tired eyes. I won't let you down. As June prepared to leave, Han stopped him at the door. I've arranged for a small strike team to create a distraction if needed. Just give the word. June nodded. Let's hope we don't need it. He stepped outside into the morning light. Above, the Domari ships loomed dark against the blue sky. Everything now depended on sounds. Simple patterns of air vibrations that might be humanity's only weapon against an advanced alien empire. Dr. Yun Park had not slept in 3 days. Coffee cups surrounded her workstation. Her eyes were red, but focused on the screen in front of her. Try this one, she told her assistant Mina. They were testing Korean words on the Domari device, one after another. Mina spoke clearly. Namu. Tree. The device hummed but showed no special reaction. Bull. Fire. Again, nothing unusual. Mole. Water. The device suddenly vibrated. Its lights flashed wildly. Then it went completely dark. Yun and Mina looked at each other, eyes wide. Say it again, Yun whispered. Mole. Mina repeated. The device, which had reset itself, shut down again instantly. Yun grabbed her phone and called June. Captain June was in the transport vehicle heading to his meeting with Telvax when his phone buzzed. We found it, Yun said, her voice excited. The word is mole. It means water in Korean. Are you sure? June asked quietly. The Domari guards in the front of the vehicle couldn't understand Korean, but he was careful anyway. Completely sure. We tested it 20 times. It shuts down their tech instantly. June felt hope rise in his chest for the first time in days. I'm almost at the ship. I'll plant the transmitters. Be ready with the broadcast. He ended the call and checked the small devices hidden in his jacket. Jia had made them look like ordinary buttons, but they were actually powerful transmitters. The transport stopped at the base of the Domari command ship. A beam of light carried June up into the massive vessel. Back at the lab, Yun explained their discovery to the team. The Korean word mole creates a sound pattern that triggers something in Domari biology, she said. Their brains can't handle it. But why this specific word? Asked Han. Eun pointed to a diagram on her screen. We analyzed their brain scans. This part here processes sounds. In humans, it's separate from our fear center. In Domari, they're connected. So this sound triggers fear? Jia asked. Not just fear, said Eun. Complete panic. It's like a phobia built into their species. Han looked skeptical. A whole advanced alien species, afraid of a simple word. Eun nodded. It's like how some humans are terrified of spiders no matter how small. It's not logical. It's biological. We think it might be from their evolution. Maybe their home planet had dangers associated with this specific sound. But is it right to use this against them? Asked Minna quietly. It seems cruel. The room fell silent. They all felt the weight of the question. They've destroyed entire planets, Han said finally. They're ready to enslave us or kill us all. And we're not killing them, added Jia. Just scaring them away. Eun looked at her screen where the word mole, was displayed. We have no choice. It's this or surrender. Her phone rang. It was Jun, his voice hushed and urgent. I'm inside. I've planted 3 transmitters, but guards are everywhere. I don't think I can place the last one near their main communication hub. Suddenly, they heard shouting in the background. They've spotted me, Jun whispered. Han, initiate the distraction now. The call cut off. Han immediately contacted his strike team. Begin Operation Firefly. I repeat, begin Operation Firefly. Across the city, small explosions lit up the night sky, drawing the attention of Domari ships. Eun gripped the edge of her desk, her knuckles white. Their plan was in motion. There was no turning back. Tomorrow was the surrender ceremony, where world leaders would sign Earth away to the Domari. Unless one Korean word could change everything. Alarms blared through the Domari command ship. Captain Jun ran down a long blue corridor, his heart pounding in his chest. Behind him, he heard the heavy footsteps of Domari guards. Jun, turn left at the next junction, Jia's voice said in his ear. She was guiding him using the small camera hidden in his jacket button. Jun turned left and found himself in a small room filled with glowing panels. The ship's communication hub. Perfect, he whispered. He quickly placed the last transmitter behind a panel, pressing it firmly into place. All 4 transmitters are in position. Get out of there now, said Han through the earpiece. Too late. The doors slid open and 3 Domari guards entered, weapons raised. At the resistance base, everyone watched Jun's camera feed in horror as he was captured. They'll kill him, whispered Mena. Han shook his head. No, they need him alive. Telvax wants to show humans the cost of resistance. Eun turned to Jia. Are the transmitters working? Jia checked her equipment. Yes, all 4 are online and connected to the Domari network. Then we continue with the plan, said Eun firmly. Jun knew the risks. She turned to her computer and opened a file labeled Project Mole. Inside was a recording of the word, adjusted to the exact frequency that would affect Domari biology most strongly. I've enhanced the sound pattern, she explained to the team. When we broadcast it, it should affect every Domari who hears it, and the transmitters will send it directly into their ship communication systems, added Jia. They won't be able to escape it. Han looked at the clock on the wall. The surrender ceremony starts in 12 hours. We need to be ready. Jun sat in a small cell aboard the Domari ship. His hands were bound with strange glowing restraints. His earpiece was gone, but the transmitters remained hidden and active throughout the ship. The cell door opened, and Commander Telvax entered. His diamond eyes stared coldly at Jun. Captain Kim, I am disappointed. We offered peace. You offered slavery, Jun replied calmly. Telvax tilted his head. Is it slavery to serve a greater purpose? Your species is young. You need guidance. We prefer to find our own way. That option is no longer available. Telvax checked something on a small device in his hand. The surrender ceremony will proceed tomorrow. You will be there, as an example of what happens to those who resist. After Telvax left, Jun tested his restraints. They were too strong to break. He looked around the cell for anything useful, but found nothing. "Come on, Yun," he whispered to himself. "Make this work." Back at the base, the final preparations were underway. Un recorded the word mole in different tones and combinations to create the strongest effect possible. Han prepared a small team to attend the surrender ceremony. They would be unarmed. Weapons would be pointless against the Domari anyway. Jia worked on the transmission system, making sure the signal would reach all 4 transmitters simultaneously. "What if it doesn't work?" Minna asked quietly. Un paused her work and looked at the young assistant. "Then at least we tried. That's all anyone can do." As night fell over the city, the team gathered one last time. "Tomorrow, either Earth becomes part of the Domari Empire, or we send them running," said Han. "I never thought our fate would depend on a single word." "Not just any word," said Yun. "A word from our language, our history, our culture." She looked at the screen where the sound wave of mole pulsed gently. A simple word meaning water, the most basic element of life on Earth. And maybe, just maybe, their salvation. "Get some rest," Han told the team. "Tomorrow will be the most important day in human history." Above them, the Domari ships continued their silent watch, unaware of the simple word that was about to change everything. The day of surrender came. The sky was clear blue, with the dark shapes of Domari ships hanging above every major city. In Seoul, a special platform had been built in the main square. Thousands of people gathered to watch. Billions more watched on screens around the world. World leaders walked slowly onto the platform. Their faces were grim. The President of South Korea, the American President, the Chinese Premier, all ready to sign Earth away. Commander Telvax stood tall in the center of the platform. Next to him was Captain Jun, his hands still bound by glowing restraints. His face was bruised, but his eyes were alert. "Today marks a new beginning for Earth," Telvax announced. His voice carried across the square and to screens worldwide. "Your world now joins the great Domari Empire." In a small van parked 2 blocks away, Yun, Han, and Jia watched the ceremony on a laptop. Their equipment surrounded them: computers, transmitters, speakers. "Are we ready?" Han asked. Jia nodded. "All 4 transmitters are active. They're linked to the Domari communication network. When we send the signal, it will go straight to every ship in their fleet." Un checked the sound file one last time. The Korean word mole had been enhanced and adjusted to the perfect frequency. "The plan was for Dr. Park to be there in person," Han said, looking at the screen where world leaders waited to sign the surrender documents. "Too dangerous," said Yun. "We can broadcast the word from here just as effectively." "But will it have the same impact?" Han wondered. On the screen, Telvax was speaking again. "Before we formalize this agreement, we have chosen one human to speak on behalf of Earth." He pointed to a woman in the front row. "Dr. Yun Park, please join us." Han, Jia, and Yun looked at each other in shock. "How do they know about you?" Jia whispered. "They must have found information when they captured Jun," said Han. Yun stood up quickly. "This changes nothing. In fact, it's better. I can deliver the word in person." "It's too dangerous," said Han, grabbing her arm. Yun pulled away. "It's our only chance. Keep the broadcast ready as backup." She left the van and walked quickly toward the square. Guards led her through the crowd when she showed her ID. On the platform, Telvax smiled as Un approached. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Dr. Park, thank you for joining us. Please read this statement of acceptance." He handed her a tablet. On the screen was a speech about humanity accepting Domari rule. Un took the tablet. She glanced at Jun, who gave her a tiny nod. The transmitters were ready. She stepped up to the microphone. The world watched. "People of Earth," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Today we face a choice." She put down the tablet. Telvax frowned but didn't stop her. "We can surrender to fear, or we can stand as humans always have, free and unafraid." Telvax stepped forward. "Dr. Park, please read the prepared." Ewan looked directly at him and spoke a single word. "Mole." The effect was instant. Telvax's body went rigid. His diamond eyes widened in pure terror. He made a strange, high sound and fell to his knees. At the same moment, Jia activated the broadcast from the van. The word "mole" shot through the transmitters Jun had planted, straight into the Domari communication system. Above the city, the Domari ships shuddered. Strange noises came from them, screeching alarms, and what sounded like screams. The Domari guards on the platform dropped their weapons. Some fell to the ground. Others ran in panic. Jum's restraints flickered and died. He grabbed Un's arm. "We need to get off this platform. Now." As they ran, the first Domari ship began to rise, moving away from the city. Then another, and another. The word had worked. The mighty Domari were fleeing from a simple human word. The sky filled with Domari ships racing to escape Earth. Some collided with each other in their panic. Blue light flashed as their engines pushed to maximum power. On the ground, people watched in amazement. Cheers began to rise from the crowd. Tears flowed down many faces. Strangers hugged each other in joy and disbelief. But Captain Jun wasn't celebrating yet. He pulled Eun through the chaos toward their team's van. "We need to get to the command ship," he said urgently, "before they all leave." "Why?" asked Eun. "They're running away. We won." "We need to know why they came here," said Jun. "And we need to make sure they don't come back with a way to block the sound." Han met them at the van. "Most of their ships are already leaving orbit," he said, showing them a radar screen. "But the command ship is still here. It's moving slowly." "That's our chance," said Jun. The word affected them, but they might recover. "We need answers now." 20 minutes later, they boarded a military helicopter. It rose quickly into the air, heading toward the massive Domari command ship that was moving slowly away from the city. "This is crazy," muttered Han as the helicopter approached the alien vessel. "What if they shoot us down?" "They're in too much panic to think clearly," said Jun. "And look, their weapon systems are offline." The helicopter landed on a flat area near the top of the command ship. The team wore small earpieces that played white noise. Protection in case the Domari tried to use sound weapons against them. They entered through an open hatch. Inside, the corridors were dim and filled with a thin mist. Domari crew members lay on the floor or huddled in corners, trembling at the humans' approach. "Mole," Jun said to any who tried to stop them. The aliens immediately collapsed in fear. They found the ship's control center easily. It was large and round, with screens showing Earth and space beyond. Commander Telvax was there, curled up under a control panel. His blue skin had turned almost white with fear. "Commander," said Jun firmly, "we need to talk." "No more," whispered Telvax. "Please, no more of that sound." "Then tell us the truth," said Eun. "Why did you really come to Earth?" Telvax slowly uncurled himself. His diamond eyes had lost their sharp edges, now round with terror. "Our world is dying," he said in a shaking voice. "Our sun grows too hot. We needed a new home." "So you decided to take ours by force?" asked Han angrily. "It is our way," said Telvax. "The strong survive. The weak serve or perish." Jun studied the screens around them. They showed maps of Earth, but also information about the Domari homeworld. It was a planet much like Earth, but with signs of severe climate change. "You could have asked for help," said Eun. "Humans can be generous when treated with respect." Telvax looked confused. "Ask? Show weakness? No species has ever offered help without taking everything in return. Humans are different, said June. We fight when threatened, but we help those in need. As they spoke, Jihad examined the ship's computer. Their homeworld has only about 30 years before it becomes uninhabitable, she reported. They have billions of people, and not enough ships to evacuate them all. June looked at Telvax with new understanding. You were desperate. The alien commander nodded slowly. But now we have nothing. That sound, that terrible sound. Our people cannot function where it exists. The sound only hurts you because we used it as a weapon, said Ian. We don't have to use it again. June made a decision. Return to your fleet, Commander. Tell them to stop running. Then come back to Earth, not as conquerors, but as guests seeking help. Telvax stared at him. Why would you help us after what we did? Because that's what makes us human, said June. 6 months passed since the day the Domari tried to conquer Earth. The massive alien ships no longer cast shadows of fear over cities. Instead, a single Domari vessel orbited Earth peacefully, a symbol of the new relationship between the two species. Captain Jum Kim stood in a large meeting room at the United Nations building in New York. He wore a formal uniform with a new badge, Earth Ambassador to the Domari. Next to him stood Commander Telvax, no longer threatening but respectful. The first colony site on Mars has been prepared, Jum announced to the assembly of world leaders. Domari engineers and human scientists have built habitats that will support 10,000 Domari families. Telvax stepped forward. We thank humanity for this generous gift. Mars will become a second home for our people while we work to save our original homeworld. In the audience, Dr. Yun Park smiled. She led the team that helped the Domari overcome their fear of the word mole. Through special training and therapy, most Domari could now hear the word without panic, though it still made them uncomfortable. The technology exchange program has also been successful, continued June. Domari space travel advances have already helped us establish the first human base on Europa. In return, our climate science is helping the Domari slow the heating of their home planet. After the meeting, the team gathered in a small garden outside. Jut was now head of the new Human-Domari Communication Network. Han led the joint security force that protected both species' interests. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we were planning to use mole as a weapon? Asked Ian, looking up at the Domari ship visible in the blue sky. Jun shook his head. I was just hoping we'd survive. This is much better. A young Domari approached them. Kalax, Telvax's son. Unlike older Domari, the younger ones were learning to speak comfortably around humans. Captain Kim, said Kalax with a slight bow. The first transport to Mars leaves tomorrow. My family wanted to invite you to the ceremony. I would be honored, said June. After Kalax left, Han chuckled. Remember how scared we were of them. Now my daughter has a Domari pen pal. Fear can blind both sides, said Ian. They were afraid to ask for help. We were afraid they were invincible. Both were wrong. Later that evening, Jum stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. Telvax joined him, his blue skin glowing softly in the twilight. There is something I still do not understand, Captain, said the Domari. When you discovered our weakness, you could have destroyed us all. Why didn't you? June considered the question carefully. Because true strength isn't about destruction. It's about finding a better way forward. You came seeking a new home because your world was dying. We just helped you ask properly. Telvax made a sound that June now recognized as laughter. My people believed for centuries that conquest was the only path to survival. One word from your language proved us wrong. One word stopped you, said June. But many words between us built something new. The next day, as the first Domari families left for their new home on Mars, people around Earth watched the live broadcast. The ship rose peacefully, no longer a threat but a sign of hope. In a classroom in Seoul, a teacher explained to young students how a single Korean word had saved humanity from alien conquest. But the real power, she told them, wasn't just in the word itself. It was in what came after, when humans showed that we could be both strong and kind. Outside the classroom window, humans and Domari walked together in the street, former enemies now working together to build a future among the stars.